the Treaty 6 territory, which is the lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota territory, and Métis nations. We would like to do a little bit of a more in-depth land acknowledgement about the history of these lands. So Naja, please take it away.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Naja. I'm joining you from Tiohtià:ke, also known as Munyang, also known as Montreal, and the custodian of these lands are the Kanen'kehá:ka of Kanesatake and Kahnawake. And we wanted to do a special shout out to bisons because, as you can see, there were bisons on the flyer for this event. There are bisons on the survey for the Prairie Meets, and there are probably bisons in all kinds of graphics surrounding this event. And I encourage everyone to actually research the history of bisons in the prairies, in Canada, and in America, because it's a pretty grim history that is very telling of the history of colonization here. So before colonization, from my research, there was about like millions upon millions of bisons. Sorry, I'm also like letting people in while I'm speaking. And in the 1800s, the population was exterminated down to about 23 plains bisons remaining. And there's a reason behind why that happened. Is because bisons were a primary source of food, clothing. Any part of the bisons you can think of was used by Indigenous people back in the days, and still to this day. And when that was noticed by colonizers, they basically figured out that if they exterminated the bisons, they would be able to subjugate Indigenous people and control their resources. The thing about bisons is they're called a keystone species. That means if you get rid of them, the entire ecosystem collapses. And that's exactly what happened. Thankfully, though, bisons are back. And I'm not sure if we're at the level yet if they're thriving, but definitely I also want people to be mindful that the thing about reconciliation sometimes that I notice is that the people responsible for colonization will also take credit for, reintroducing, for example, bisons as an act of reconciliation. And, we can debate that all day, but I just want people to be mindful of that and to not just give credits to settlers who caused this in the first place. So I watched a bunch of podcasts and stuff this week, and I really recommend people just, if you Google bison colonization Canada, you will find more than enough information. So we really recommend people to look this up. So I'll give the mic back to Jen so that she can tell a little bit about what was the Prairie Meet, why was the Prairie Meet. So go ahead, Jen.
For sure. Thanks, Naja, for that educational land acknowledgement. I appreciate it. So the Prairie Stimulus Meet happened in mid-September of 2022, which was the hard work and spearheaded by Shay and Naja. Mostly, I did not work here at the time. I was an attendee and did not know I'd be leaving with the job, so that's cool. So the purpose and intent of Stimulus has always been to convene and engage people in the harm reduction sector, primarily people who use drugs. That's a big piece of why we feel like our programming is different. We are actively, including people who use drugs. They are leading every step of the way with our events. So that's a cool thing that makes us a little bit different, is that we, the participants of our events tend to be people who use drugs, and we value and honor their expertise and knowledge around substance use. People who have drugs, people who use drugs have so much to teach us, and it's up to service providers to listen and act on what people are telling us that they need. So you may remember Stimulus in 2018, which was the first national conference held in Edmonton, Alberta. And it was decided to do some more local, like regional meets across the country to build our networks, build our solidarity and our collective work. Yeah, so we've had the Stimulus meet in Saskatoon. We also held one in Moncton, and we're in a little bit of uncertain times right now, so we're not sure exactly where our next Stimulus meet will be, but we are working hard to figure that out right now. Why? The why of Stimulus. As I just said, solidarity, collective movement, networking, having these regional conversations with stakeholders, people who use drugs. This is very important to build our movement. And as we can all probably relate, we are all going through it. There is an overwhelming collective grief, burnout, a need for solidarity and to come together, to be strong, to fight the things that we're facing right now. And Stimulus has always provided that space for people to be authentic, for people to be safe, for people to connect with others. It's a space that we can be ourselves in, and we don't have to face stigma. It's not a typical conference. It's not typical meets. We really try to take care of people who use drugs and their well-being and their safety, all while putting on an informative, not informal, informative educational opportunities to help people in their work. Nada?
Yeah, just to add to that, I think the beautiful thing about having a national movement is that in each provinces, we all have our own challenges, but also our own strength, and being able to convene somewhere and share this knowledge is crucial also for survival, because we're able to share with each other what we do in our provinces, in our cities, in order to survive and in order to thrive doing this work. So we really hope that we can make something possible. And like Jen said, there's a lot of challenges right now, a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of funding cuts. And so we're working through all that. I do want to give a special shout out to everyone who was part of organizing the Prairie Meet. So of course, Stimulus, CDPC, CAPUD, Prairie Harm Reduction, AAWEAR, Manitoba Harm Reduction, and the 4B Harm Reduction Society. And I want to give a special shout out to Shay, because Shay's here today. And these kinds of online events are very inspired by the Stimulus Connect that Shay started a couple years back. And I really recommend you guys go on the Stimulus website to check them out. This is like a library of knowledge of people with lived experience, of people who use drugs, of people in harm reduction, to just get together and chat about like what's really going on. And yeah, I just wanted to thank Shay and give credits where credit is due. You know, we're going through a rough patch at CDPC, not gonna lie. So all the love is appreciated. But today we are meeting to highlight the work of our friend and colleague Nat, who is a videographer and who does really awesome work. So Nat, please tell us about your work and what you've been doing at CDPC and what you want to show us today.
Thank you, Naja. And thank you everyone for coming. This is a really amazing turnout just for kind of a random idea that I had. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Nat. I live on the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish Nation, and I was born and raised in East Vancouver. And I, before working with CDPC, I was a youth activist based in Nairobi, Kenya for like 14 years, I think. And I was a youth activist, and I was a videographer as well. And I started volunteering at a young age, and noticed that video is an extremely powerful tool for a nonprofit and raising awareness. I've been making videos since I was 9 years old, and I'm now, it's my career now, and I really love telling stories and capturing moments, and sharing stories of, you know, what's happening in the world with a social justice lens, basically. And so when I was working in Kenya, I started losing a lot of friends over here in Canada, and I had lost friends to overdose before fentanyl came online, but you know, it was really distressing. I started asking myself, why am I on the other side of the world when there's obviously I'm needed back home? So I came back home. I landed this incredible job with the Canadian Drug Policy Coalition to tell people stories around the country who have been affected by this crisis. And so this was part of the Getting to Tomorrow project. Some of you might have attended the dialogues before that we've held around the country. And I made the videos that were shown at these dialogues. And I can post a link to those for people who are ever interested in watching those videos. And it was it's been a very eye-opening experience. You know, growing up in East Van, I've had a lot of exposure and experience, but just learning the world of drug policy and all its horrible qualities, you know, has been really not educational experience for me. And also I spent a lot of my time working at the Overdose Prevention Society as well, which is one of the busiest supervised consumption sites in North America. And so part of the challenge with my work making these videos is to have them seen. We've told a lot of really incredible stories, and I pour my heart into telling these stories that we think are, you know, should be seen by the general public. And I make them, and it just kind of fizzles out online and doesn't really get much attention at all, or engagement. And so today the idea is, instead of just posting it online on social media and hoping people are going to watch it and share it and comment and all that stuff, to actually sit down with the community and watch it and just sort of have a discussion and see what it's about. And this video about the stimulus in the prairies, I really feel it's just a kind of a drop in the bucket of what's actually happening with folks in the prairies, right? There's so much going on, and this video is only 4.5 minutes long, and you know, it's just sort of a brief overview of what people are experiencing. And I would love to be able to tell more stories from folks in Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And we're actually going to show a video that we produced first in Manitoba. And I just want to say thanks to everyone that's helped, that helped with this video, the people that are in the video. There's Keith, Elizabeth, Sky, Donald McPherson, Tracy, Naomi, Marlis, Natasha, and Shay. And yeah, that's what I'll say. Who's Naja Prairie? Who's saying next? I think I've talked to. Oh, you know what? I forgot about sorry, one last thing. I forgot to plug the documentary, the Smoky Devil documentary. So we have my favorite artist, his name is Smoky Devil. He does all the murals and awareness things for what we're experiencing here on the east side. And I made a documentary about him. Some of you, it actually showed at the Stimulus Prairies event, and it's a little bit different now, but it's premiering online next Thursday. And we'll show a trailer for it at the end of this event here. But I would love it if you all could join us for this event. And it's next Thursday, pretty much around the same time. And that's an hour-long documentary about a very, very cool artist and human being. Thank you.
Thank you, Nat. So just to introduce the first video we're gonna watch, I guess, Jen, it would be cool if you want to talk about outreach in the prairies and just introduce that piece.
For sure. The intent behind this is to start off with a heavy piece and hopefully leave you all a little lighter. The video that we're going to show now is about Jessica Peltier from Manitoba Harm Reduction Network, which was part of the Getting to Tomorrow dialogues that Nat created in Brandon, I do believe. Jessica, I'm just going to give a content warning. Jessica has since passed away. So if this is a video that you don't feel comfortable watching or it's hard for you, like, please step away. I never met Jessica, but I mean, as someone who does rural outreach and is very, isolated in their work sometimes, I really see Jessica as an inspiration. She took such an innovative idea to partner with, well, you'll see, but to partner with a corporation in her area to provide naloxone to people with no barriers, no stigma, no questions asked, and really evolved this idea into something just really groundbreaking. I want to honor that her family. I want to honor her family. I want to honor her coworkers and her friends that miss her dearly. And even though lots of us had not had the opportunity to meet Jessica, her work resonates with us, and we miss this comrade in our world. So if we could just take a couple 30 seconds to remember Jessica and to remember all the folks that we've lost along the way in this drug war. Tomorrow is International Drug Users Remembrance Day, so we feel like this is a good way to do that. So please just take a moment and we'll think about the folks that we've lost. Thank you. Thanks, folks. And now we will play the video from Nat on Jessica Peltier.
8, 9, 10. Good? Just let them know that those kits are nasal naloxone, so they're not with the needles. We are living through the war on drugs. We are living through a war on people who use drugs. And maybe that's not even the right term because we're not all living through it. They only had 3 kits left from the 80, I guess, that were delivered. So it's being used. People are accessing it. It's breaking down barriers. I mean, you could just come to the convenience store to get your naloxone. Why wouldn't you? My name is Jessica Peltier. I live in Selkirk, Manitoba, and I'm a harm reductionist. So this is what we do. We just hustle naloxone all day. Naloxone is important because it reverses opioid overdoses and drug poisonings. I began using substances as a young teenager. Growing up in a rural community, there wasn't a lot to do, and we use substances. I feel like substances keeps people alive when they don't have the tools or they are not in the place to navigate their trauma. We all probably know somebody who has used a substance, illegal or not, in our life, and that doesn't make them any less deserving of love. What has really driven me in this overdose crisis came from a time where I received a text message from somebody in the community. This person messaged and had asked me for naloxone. We got in the car, I went and I brought them kits of naloxone, and I left thinking I had done a good deed. Realizing later that somebody had passed away at that house, and I felt so guilty. I felt so terrible. I felt like this burden, this weight was on my shoulders. The next day, they immediately took a meeting with me and a public health nurse and another peer, and we strategized about how we could flood this community with naloxone. I got my briefcase with my naloxone kits, my pamphlets, and I just started going to businesses. Following the gas stations, I feel like my next approach is going to be seeing if we can get it in with the hotels. And I started approaching them and just gathering a list of potential places that would be willing to carry naloxone kits as part of first aid. Hey, how are you? Good. I think I might have spoken with you in April.
The kits.
The naloxone kits, right?
Like, it's probably pretty huge. Like, I've never heard of anyone doing this, which is a bad sign, right? So happy you guys are doing this.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Bye. Going in and approaching people about naloxone or carrying it as part of first aid, and if you make it just about that, it's just we have wanting to support our members in the community. I think it's really hard not to get behind that. Every single person who goes into that store knows that they carry naloxone, and you can just ask for it, take it, go. How much less stigmatizing is that? Knowing that Shell, I mean, this big corporation has approved this at the corporate level, I definitely feel that there is opportunities to replicate this in other rural communities. What's going to show a change in this overdose crisis is change in policy, change in laws, decriminalization, destigmatization, decolonization of our systems. That's what's going to make the change.
So, pretty powerful video. It is a constant struggle in doing this work. I have captured stories of so many people that have passed away, and it's an enormous responsibility to try and tell someone's story and to let them give them a legacy. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how else to describe it, although I feel like, you know, it's a huge responsibility that I have. You know, there's a lot of sleepless nights where I'm wondering, you know, how will these pieces be received especially by the community, from the people that really, you know, need to see them. And you know, I think a lot of times, you know, especially in harm reduction, it's very thankless work. And I think it's important for people to know that they are doing incredible things that are, you know, keeping people alive and making people want to, you know, giving people that connection. It's so important. And so I think we can continue on. I'm going to play the next video that we have, which is why we are here.
So our local Saskatchewan government, in all their infinite wisdom, revamped our welfare system, our income assistance, and our homelessness has spiked, tripled probably since it's been implemented.
The prairies are viewed as a place where not a lot of harm reduction happens, and definitely, like, we don't have the support of our government in Saskatchewan.
We don't need to wait until we get to the boiling point where our overdose deaths are worse and worse before they finally decide to do something.
I've been doing this work for 25 years, and it's like in BC it's 5 times as bad as it was when we started 25 years ago, just arguing and lobbying. And
we understand that if we don't do this work together, we're not going to get nowhere, and we're going to keep losing best friends, and I just lost one.
Our numbers are higher and people are dying at alarming rates, because even our coroner won't share the numbers of what's actually kind of going on. But in the community, everybody knows. And it's just hard watching that happen.
I've lost friends and relatives to overdose, and it is hard, because knowing that had it not been criminalized, it could have prevented them from having that overdose.
There's so much grief and loss in the community. I mean, in Saskatchewan, like, we still have people who are dying from AIDS-related illnesses.
we've changed all sorts of other laws in our country. But the drug laws are the hard ones to change, and every day they cause so much harm. And it's so visible now. It's more visible than ever. There are more people dying than ever of overdose, of the toxic drug supply.
We see in the safe consumption site every single day the impacts that the war on drugs has, because the safe consumption site is a space where people can use safely, right? They don't have to hide their use, they don't have to hurry their use in an alleyway or something like that. We have far more overdoses just outside of Prairie harm reduction.
When I was out there was no services. We didn't have a needle exchange till 2005.
People who use substances are not bad people. Like they're from all walks of life. You're not just dealing with one population, it's everyone. And harm reduction just makes it easier to live.
If we start attacking ourselves, we're not going to get anywhere. I think it's understanding that different people are doing different things the best way they possibly can, and that we need to support each other.
I have an amazing team that truly makes an impact on people's lives, and so we are capable of really, really radical harm reduction here, and we push for it every single day in this province.
So thank you for watching that. Yeah, that was in September 2022, so almost a year ago. But it took a while to get it done, and then trying to figure out what to do with it and organizing this and everything. So I think, you know, this is not a panel discussion or anything. We're going to try and open it up and just allow people to share their thoughts. I think it's this, the turnout today also shows a need for these kinds of things. We don't really get, you know, positive stories, especially coming out of the prairies. So I think today, you know, it really shows a need for more events like this, and you know, hopefully we can do more of this in the future. I think Naja had a poll that she wanted to put out. So if we wanted to do that, and
Sure,
then
it feels a bit weird after watching like real shit like that to like do a poll and not like, you know, hear people out. So I think I would like to, yeah, just open the space to, if anyone wants to share their thoughts after watching those videos, or if people you know, were at the Prairie Meet or just want to share, you know, anything that's on their heart right now.
Hello.
Angie.
Hi. Nat, that was beautiful. It was such a great experience to be around just so much knowledge and passion and community. And I'm forever grateful for that experience. I learned so much from all of you. And yeah, it was hard coming home and having that kind of down where you're just not surrounded by that as much. So Nat, great job in capturing so many great voices and the first video was just so emotional. So thank you. Thanks for everybody who put that together. The meeting was just really special for me. So I learned a lot in those couple days.
Maybe now's it. Sorry, Natasha, 1 second. Maybe now is a good opportunity to kind of go over the content that was presented, just kind of refresh people's memory.
After I get out of the thing, I'm gonna come chat with you. Imagine your worst day ever, and then imagine reliving that every single day.
Someone's not muted.
Someone's watching our brand video.
You have some lunch yet? To do something yet today? My name is Chanel Twan. I work at Royal Street Community Services Center in Streetworks. We're gonna give this
Try and mute who's ever doing that.
A day in the life of an outreach worker. It could be a variety of things.
You can perhaps mute people if you can find out who it is.
They have the cleaning of debris from the streets and walking around the neighborhood, connecting with folks. Or it might be that I'm at the hospital.
I'm
Another day connecting with folks.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, just to kind of go over some of the presentations that were given at the Prairie Meet to hopefully, you know, jog people's memories to what we talked about. Something that really stood out for me was managing conservative governments and having that conversation. And I believe it was Marlis from Streetworks and Donald that led that one. Very impactful, very relevant to the times we find ourselves in. I learned a lot. I'm also at a loss of what to do anymore, how to move forward. So to have that, you know, collective conversation was really important. Another piece that was really impactful for me was to hear Jason McCurdy, the former ED of Prairie Harm Reduction in Saskatoon, talk about community support and fundraising and how do we deliver service without funding or support from the government, and really relying on the genius that is Prairie Harm Reduction and getting that community buy-in to start making positive changes in the lives of folks in Saskatoon. Their methods to, I mean, for me, memes, I love their memes. I love their messaging. It's not sugar-coated. It's darkly humorous. And I think a lot of us could probably relate to that. And turning that into, you know, merch. Here's my t-shirt acknowledgement from Prairie Harm Reduction. I'm wearing PHR every single day of my life, I feel like. And, you know, having a way for, you know, our wider harm reduction community to support by wearing cool stuff, and it helps them, it helps us, looks awesome, that type of thing. And then, you know, something that I was a part of with Natasha from CAPUD was talking about our best practices for people who work in harm reduction, people who use drugs in harm reduction. I think Natasha will probably jump in, but it was such an impactful couple hours that we spent in a room just full of people who use drugs, no service providers, no government officials, no one else, just us, and being able to talk about these things and teach people, you know, the worth of their positions, the worth of their work, and how to respect themselves and their work to reflect, you know, pay and titles and things that empower people who use drugs in this work. So I hope that helps jog a little bit of memory for people, and I will pass it off to Kim. Thank you.
Wow, that was fast. I just want to thank you, Jen, and the person who did both those videos, like really powerful. I had a good cry, and one of the things that a lot of us are noticing here, and I'm sorry I missed the gatherings, is about us. Someone just talked about this, like us being able to get together, even in just regular harm reduction meetings, but also to grieve. Like we often just, you know, don't have time to grieve and you know, have to balance out, you know, the need to grieve as community with mobilizing and organizing us as drug user people to, you know, to be able to also lead in that community as we're under attack, and as our, you know, our family who are unhoused were under attack ever more. And, you know, that cycle, the previous speaker spoke to lack of funding. Yeah, I'm outside here, by the way, on Pandora Green, just my backyard. I hope everybody can hear me okay. And we were able to hear the video, and thank you so much. And you're on YouTube, right? This stuff is on the YouTube thing that was just posted. Is that right? The link?
This video, the Prairie video is not online yet. This is the first time anyone's seen it, but we are going to put it on our YouTube, which is Canadian Drug Policy Coalition or Drug Policy Canada on YouTube.
Someone was just asking, so yeah, this Zoom will be available for people too. Will that be available so that people could watch it in the Zoom?
Yeah, I didn't know that we are recording that we were going to record this, but I guess we are, and so it makes sense to put it up there after, for sure.
Yeah, so that was the question, was like if people could help generate ideas on like how do we grieve together in empowering ways. Like Nat, you kind of spoke about that, like, you know, it's hard to say this, but unhoused here one day when I went over, talked about an idea that we had to come and do something once a week right there on the green because of how many people were losing. The crew right there in, you know, on the spot felt they couldn't do it because they're just barely hanging on with their grief. Because, you know, so anyways, we talked about that, you know, since quite a bit, and how the barely hanging on with the grief is because we're not able to do it as community, you know. You know, encouraging the workers, you know, who are also part of the community to sort of just let themselves be real. And thank you so much. I felt like I had a good cry, and I feel empowered through, you know, that first video especially really was quite healing. Thank you for doing this. I put myself on mute again.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for saying so. Appreciate that, brother.
Natasha, please jump in.
So I was going to spare you all my home office hair so that you didn't have to see this, but anyway, I thought it was necessary to turn my camera on and say thank you, Nat, for doing such an amazing job with both videos. I was in tears as well watching the video about Jessica, and you did an amazing job. So first of all, thank you. And I'm probably going to cry again. So I'm trying not to right now. But to the Prairie Meet, I did get a little like FaceTime there, like probably 2 seconds. So thank you for including me. But I agree with Jen. For me personally, the Prairie Meet that we had through Stimulus was one of the most profound meetings I've had with people who use drugs, where everybody was attentive, where everybody wanted to share and talk and learn. And so for me, working with CAPUD since it feels like all of my life, but it's only been since 2014. But I mean, still, I think that was one of the most respectful engagements, not even just respectful, but profound in the sense that we all understood each other in the room. And so I just wanted to echo that off of Jen, because we did do the Hear Us, See Us, Respect Us. It's a PowerPoint, but it was really more of a conversation. And then we also did one, Drug Policy 101, and everybody was sort of just feeding off each other. And so it was just, for me, it was amazing. So I just want to thank everybody that was involved. And thank you again, Nat, for bringing these videos out today, because they're amazing. And I'll turn my camera off now so you don't have to see my office hair.
Thank you, Natasha. It's nice to see you.
Go ahead, Christine.
It's nice to see you too, Nat, even though my camera's off most of the time.
Hi. As you can see, my name is Christine Dobbs, and I'm from Manitoba. I'm a member of Moms Stop the Harm. I'm a mother who lost her son in 2016. And Nat, I watched your film of Jessica over a year ago, and I was taken aback by it. And today, even further taken aback. I didn't know she had passed away. I am so sorry to hear that news. The film that you did with Jessica was excellent. I was thrilled with it and shared it wherever I could. And I just, while sitting here, I think someone said if we could come up with some ideas on how to get these videos out for people to see. I have a bit of an idea. I'll throw it at you. International Overdose Day is coming up very soon. And and when I was in Ottawa, they do these films on the side of buildings. We have here in Winnipeg the Museum for Human Rights. They have a great big side brick wall. Downtown, we've got some buildings that I'm seeing the videos playing in the background of some of the International Overdose Awareness Days events, sort of like a hologram, like it just keeps playing on the building. Just a thought. It's impactful. You see those big screens on the sides of buildings. Throw it out there.
That is a great idea, Christine. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of community screenings and just getting people together to watch stuff. And this, now that we have Zoom and sort of the online world, this was kind of an effort to do that sort of similar thing today. But we do have a lot of wall space around, and that is a really great idea. So maybe I'll do that.
There's a lot of events going on. I don't know how you would coordinate it, but I think it'd be cool.
And we also did the Mom Stop the Harm video as well.
Yes.
If you saw that one.
Yeah. I watched them all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey.
Hey everyone. I just wanted to say, I was one of those people at the events where I was all like, I'm pretty sure you would be great on video if you trust us and trust Nat. I wanted to thank all the people who did indeed trust Nat. with their stories and their voices, because it's like a level of putting yourself out there for a long time that's really hard. And the questions that Nat curated for those conversations were so impactful and really led to the great content that he has and that he put together. So I wanted to thank all those folks. I know for some of them it was very nerve-wracking. Same for the Atlantic Meet video, but the Manitoba one was like tricky, and so thanks to the folks from all the provinces that did that.
I'm just gonna open the floor again and ask if there is any attendees of the Prairie Meet who were there. You know, what stood out for you? What did you appreciate about the event? How did this help you in your work afterwards? If anyone feels like they want to share, we would welcome that.
I just gave a shout out to SafeLink. I see my peeps sitting there. I just wanted to say hi to them because it was amazing meeting everybody there.
Hi. Sorry, Angie, I see you have your hand up and I like unmuted first. So just wanted to say that, like, I think for us, all of it was fantastic, but it was the people, all the people that were there. It was validating, and it was just like, it just felt so great because we're all in this together, and we need to, most importantly, take care of each other. And events like this is what allows us to do exactly that. So seeing a lot of your faces and reading a lot of your names, it just brings a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings, and also makes me want to cry because, you know, it reminds me of so many of us that are no longer around, and so many people who are just, you know, the victims of this fucked up world. I'm just gonna leave it at that. So love you all. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Nat, for creating these beautifully packaged you know, films, and that are like educational and touching and meaningful and beautiful. And it's just like, you really have something, that talent that you're using, that voice that you're giving so many people who are being forgotten, is like, we are like, you're amazing. So we love you. Thank you. Keep it up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Go ahead, Angie girl.
One of my favorite parts was when we did a group of us got together and talked about what was working, what wasn't. It was a real chance to look at some mutual aid across the provinces, and be able to help out people that maybe don't have access to naloxone or different kind of safer use supplies, or just info sharing. And it really helped build people up, I felt, and realize you aren't alone and so isolated. So it was a really, really good experience, and interesting to hear how different the provinces were, as far as supplies and that kind of thing, and just opening those doors for mutual aid, which I think is so important. That's it.
I love that. And that's maybe not an unintended thing that happens from stimulus events, but the amount of care and looking out for communities that not necessarily in our province, but, you know, people just want to help and take care of one another. And we know that some mutual aid happened after the fact that likely wouldn't have happened without stimulus bringing people together and having the opportunity to meet one another and build those relationships. So thanks for highlighting that, Angie. Yes, Christine.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Nat. The invite to come to this or to watch came through my mailbox quite a few times, and I'm glad I actually got time to pop on. I haven't been in the Prairie region for a long time. I left. I used to work in harm reduction, and I left because it was too much. I couldn't handle it anymore, and I had to leave. And that's what I chose as self-care, was to go. And returning, it's sad to see that it's worse, actually. It's really heartbreaking to see it's worse. And everyone's doing the best they can, and just keeps getting harder and harder and harder for everyone. And we're all racking our brains on what to do. But it's good to know that people haven't given up, because you can't. These are people you love, so you can't just give up. So it's good to see the shared. I saw there were about like almost 100 people in this call, which is pretty impressive. It's hard to get those kinds of numbers. So it's good to see people care. It's good to see different levels of approaching this problem. And at the end of the day, it's just trying to save people's lives at the end of the day. So there shouldn't be an argument with government officials. It's as simple as everyone's life matters. So it was nice to see stories from people. It's really sad to know that one of them has already left us, but I mean, good on all of us in here for doing hard work to try and continue saving people and coming up with collaborative ideas to do that. I used to be frontline. Now I'm more of the higher level, and I'm understanding more why those policies don't work. And I'm trying to maneuver in that area, because you need people at every different level. So I'll share everything I've heard today with everyone in AAWEAR as much as I can through email. We'll keep talking about it. We have some more colleagues, Lauren's on here as well. We'll just keep sharing the message, and hopefully it gets pushed further. So yeah.
Thank you so much for your support, Christine. I think Angie's is a legacy hand. So Kim, go ahead.
Just to share an idea because of how incredible this group is. I was out in one of the encampments, and we were talking about a lot of stuff, and what came up was as a joke, but then activists were like, wait, no, that's a really good idea. Like, for us to do an exchange, like that people feel like we can't leave for a lot of reasons. Some are unhoused, some are poor, and some just feel like we can't leave because every time we miss a couple of days, you know, so much happens and people go and get swept, and then we have to go and find them again. Not only are we dealing with the overdose crisis, we're dealing with the police sweeps, which is, you know, sort of another level of emotional mental health, you know, for everybody, the workers, the people living unhoused who are trying to find their family who just got moved and swept, to the rest of the community who are trying to find them who are housed. Like, it's just, wow. So we were joking, you know, we try and, you know, I mean, I don't know how we do it, but we do have humor in the midst of it. And we talked about, let's do an exchange program. And I started talking about it with more harm reduction frontline workers, and like no one has said no. Everyone's like, whoa, that's a good idea, because we can't, like, it's like we know that we're in a war. It's not like, oh, it's not like normal. And maybe it never was, but now it's like real obvious since 2020. And it's like, I used to say years ago, like, we're on a frontline war before 2020 and before 2019, and we don't have people coming in enough. You know, in a war, you have people go to the front line and take, you go back. You know what I mean? Right? Everybody knows on the front line in a war, like, you can only handle it so long, and you got to have, you know, other people come in, you get moved out, and then other people come in. It's just like, you know, otherwise it's inhumane. It's just not, it's not cool. Well, we're in the inhumane. It's just not cool. And one of the things we all came up that we all agreed with, like, doing exchange, we would still be able to be on the front lines, but it would also be incredible to network, because we don't get a chance to network. And you know, the divide and rule, like the sister talked about decolonization, the divide and rule thing, it's really hurting us. So anything that brings us together is going to be absolutely radical. And I don't know if there can even be a show of hands, but how many people in their city have access to a daily harm reduction peer support, or a weekly
I think Kim is frozen. Kim, your audio is kind of in and out.
Okay, I'll just end it, but basically, like, you know, the exchange program would be great, but how are people, like, how can we share how to get a harm reduction peer harm reduction? Like, it's just like, how many cities are doing it? If you are, it's a miracle. Please share with us. Like, you know, we're going to go outside now and start doing it here on the green. Done. Thank you. I'm done. I'm trying to mute myself.
Thank you, Cam. We appreciate you. Stella, please go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me? You know, this whole video or whatever was awesome. Just really got lots out of it, and I really feel for people that have no support. The videos were so good, especially the one with what's her name here? The one that passed away, I forget her name.
Jessica,
yes, that was so good. So it's just too bad these couldn't be shared. And I think that's what Kim was saying, like wider, broader, with hopefully users, like just to get the full impact, because there's so much even around here and it's just awful. And I think the ones that people that may get the most out of these are the ones that won't show. And I don't know what the answer would be. Just like everybody else, it's a hard catch. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Stella. It feels weird to kind of cut this short. I feel like we're just starting to get into some good conversation, but this was meant to be over people's lunch hours. So we're, you know, we're trying to keep it to time for you. Unless anyone has anything that they want to add before we go to our final video, raise your hand if you do. Hi, Lorna.
Sorry, just getting video here. Is that working?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
There I am. Now I'm are you frozen? Is this frozen?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we just can't see you.
Not sure why the screen. Jen, are you frozen? What's happening?
There you are.
Sorry, it's slow. I just wanted to congratulate you on setting the whole hour up, because a lot of the work that we do is in isolation. I'm one of the co-founders of Mums Stop the Harm, and most of what I do is with men in the trades, and almost all of it is online. So just seeing people's faces, hearing what their attitudes are, watching the videos, thank you, Matt, is really great for breaking down that sense of isolation that I know I have. With the work that I'm doing with men in the trades, we are now trying to find a way to meet with the UCP around naloxone being on the work site. And we are making a little bit of progress that way from, you know, the initial work that I did a year ago, where having naloxone on a work site would encourage drug use, to having naloxone conversations with St. John's and other agencies. So, you know, we are trying to tackle this conservative government. I'm in Edmonton. Be very interested to know what Marlis and Donald said about conservative governments and ways to break through, because I'm working with the Alberta Construction Association. They are trying to get a meeting with the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions here in Alberta. And that will include perhaps conversations around naloxone. So maybe I'll give Marlis a call, find out what her attitude is around breaking through to some kind of conversation. But anyway, congratulations on setting this up. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Lorna. Okay, if no one else has their hand up, I think now would be a good time to move to not necessarily harm reduction on the prairies, but some inspiring graffiti artistry from the downtown east side. I'll let Nat do a better job of introducing this, but this film is awesome. During the Prairie Meet, we had an opportunity to all come together for a rough screening of the film, and I know Nat and Smokey made a lot of fans in that room that night. It was a cool opportunity to just chill with each other and watch this documentary on an OG legend. So go ahead, Nat.
Thank you, Jen. I just wanted to also make everyone aware that I have just loaded that video onto our YouTube, the Prairie harm reduction on the prairies. So that is available on YouTube now if anyone wants to use that resource. And so as I mentioned before, I have a documentary that's being released online next Thursday. I'm going to repost the link there, and my friend and artist Smokey Devil is instrumental in the community at raising awareness and bringing color to our community, and he's one of the best people. So I'm going to share the trailer, and hopefully we can see each other at the online premiere next Thursday.
Can you hear what doing over here? Right here. Just give me a quick basic one. Okay, what's that?
Savage painter, man.
He's one of the most realest motherfuckers you should ever meet.
To me, he's a legend.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Ghetto Fabulous Adventure of Smokey D.
He's the fucking biggest gangster with the biggest heart of gold.
What you see in the alley stays in the alley. Look at me, I'm banging this stuff out for a living, man. I'm getting paid for it. I love Hastings.
He uses his art as an awareness tool for people within the downtown east side.
His work has been like a living billboard of obituaries.
180 people died in 1 month from drugs just down here.
This year alone, more than 1,000 British Columbians have died from drug overdoses.
I remember when his wife died. He was out bombing like crazy because fentanyl, not heroin, fentanyl killed the love of his life.
You know, guys say, oh, it's my parents' fault that I turned out like this. Boo-hoo. Not me, man. It's my fault, you know?
Cool. So that is in the chat. That's an hour-long documentary, and it'd be really cool if you folks could make it out to that. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Thank you for showing up, being part of the discussion. This was I feel like this went really well, and I hope we can do it again soon. Thank you.
In solidarity, everybody, let's take care of each other. We're going through some tough times across the prairies, in the Atlantic, across Canada, and we got to stay strong. We got to stay together. Reach out. If you need support, Stimulus will be here to support you. And let's continue hyping Nat's amazing work up, because he's really just the gifted storyteller that we need in this work. So thank you, Nat, for sharing your work and your thoughts with us today. We all really appreciate it. And take care, everybody. Thank you.